eating habits. Michelle knew it was time to trust God to heal her from the emotional chains that had kept her bound in food addiction for years. Maybe you're like Deborah and could use divine wisdom to guide you. Perhaps you can relate to the problems Tyler and Hillary experienced, yet you've lost hope that anything will ever change. Or it could be that you know all too well what it's like to battle a life-controlling issue like Michelle has, and you are desperate for deliverance and healing. Whatever you are up against in your life right now, you are not alone. God sees your need. He wants you to cry out to Him so He can come to your rescue. Fasting is a powerful spiritual discipline that allows you to connect with God on a deeper level. When you fast, you deny yourself food, or certain foods, for a specified period of time as an act of surrender. You are, in essence, saying, God, I have to have your help in this situation. I don't know what to do, and I'm willing to sacrifice my time, my physical comfort, and my desires so I can hear from you. Fasting, when accompanied by fervent prayer, will help you develop intimacy with the Lord like nothing else can. Something supernatural happens when you humble yourself before God and pursue Him with genuine passion. You experience a greater sense of His presence in your life, the indescribable joy that comes from walking in obedience, and God's richest blessings as you seek Him wholeheartedly. My first Daniel fast. When I started my first Daniel fast, I didn't know it would change my life. To give you a little background, a few years prior to the fast, I wrote a cookbook but never had it published. In fact, when I was in the final stages of editing it, the manuscript file somehow got corrupted and I lost everything. One day, I opened it up to make a few revisions, and the data was gone. The file was empty. I did have a hard copy of the cookbook, but it wasn't current, which meant I'd have to start over. I set the cookbook aside for more than a year. Occasionally, I pulled out my notes and started working on it again, but I never felt the Lord's blessing when I did. Instead, I was anxious and stressed. I continued to sense that the Lord was asking me to wait, so I let the cookbook sit in a box on the top shelf of my closet. Every so often, I glanced up at the box and heard a different voice. You'll never finish. You're a failure. In those moments, I chose to listen instead to the voice of my Savior. Two particular verses sustained me during that time. Wait for the Lord. Be strong and take heart, and wait for the Lord. Psalm 27:14. And I wait for the Lord. My soul waits, and in His word I put my hope. Psalm 130:5. Nearly 2 years after the incident with the cookbook, my church, James River Assembly, held a Daniel fast in preparation for the launch of our second location, the Wilsons Creek campus. We believed God was leading us to reach Southwest Springfield, Missouri with the love of Christ, but we needed His help. Our pastor, John Lindahl, asked us to pray and seek the Lord's wisdom and favor as we stepped out in faith. A few days before Pastor John announced the church-wide fast, I had already planned to do a 7-day fast myself, and one of the main things I wanted to pray about was the cookbook. At that point, I was willing to do whatever God wanted, even if it meant the book would never be published. So when our pastor invited the congregation to join the leadership team by participating in a Daniel fast, I felt excitement and anticipation. I knew God was about to do something amazing in my life and in the life of our church. Early in the morning on day 1 of the Daniel fast, I started a blog thinking it would be fun to write about what I was experiencing and learning. www.thosewhohunger.blogspot.com. I never planned for the blog to be anything more than a journal. While cooking marinated zucchini that night for dinner, I thought, this would be a great recipe for people doing the Daniel fast. I mentioned it to my husband, and he suggested I post recipes on the blog for people in our church. The more I thought about the possibilities, the more excited I became. I began putting new recipes on the blog every day, many of them from my unpublished cookbook. As I did, God quietly whispered to my heart, "Do you see now? This is why I wanted you to wait. I had something bigger and better in mind." That is how the ultimate guide to the Daniel